The caged beast. The cage was too small for her to stand. Shari's knees were pressed against her chest. Her long black hair was tangled and full of dust. A collar was tight around her neck, made of cold metal. It had no name on it, only a number, number 37. The sun above was burning. 2 moons hung behind it, shining in the sky of the alien city. The auction square was full of noise, shouting, laughing, and cruel jokes. "Look at that one." A fat alien pointed at Shari, laughing. "Is that even a person or just a wild animal?" Everyone laughed. Shari did not. She had learned not to cry anymore. Tears meant weakness, and weakness meant pain. Her kind had been captured long ago, called beastkin by the Empire. They were used for work, war, and sometimes worse things. Now she was just another item in the market. "Next," shouted the auction master, his voice loud through the speaker. "Caged female. Part beast, part tech, still strong, still alive. Who will start the bid?" Shari raised her head slowly, not because she wanted to, but because the chain on her collar pulled her forward. She stared at the crowd, mostly aliens, a few soldiers, and some rich traders. And then she saw him, a human. Humans were rare here. Most were off-worlders, poor, weak, unwanted. They were not allowed to own anything, let alone slaves. But this one was different. He was tall, with a scar on his cheek and a strange softness in his eyes. He didn't wear armor, just simple traveler's clothes and a brown coat that looked old. His eyes locked with hers. She expected the usual, the disgust, the laughter, the fear. But he didn't look away. He stared. Shari blinked. For a moment, she felt like he saw her. Not the chains, not the dirt, not the beast, but her. The auction master laughed. "No one. Come on. Strong teeth, sharp claws, still fertile. Beastkin like her are rare." Someone threw a stone at the cage. It hit the bars, making Shari flinch. And then the human raised his hand. 10,000 credits, he said. Silence. Everyone turned to him. The auction master laughed again. "A joke, human. You don't have the money." The man stepped forward, pulling out a silver card. "I have the credits. Scan it. You want that thing." A trader said with a disgusted look. "It's not even clean." "Filthy creature," someone added. But the man didn't answer them. His eyes never left Shari. The scanner beeped. The auction master's eyes widened. "Paid in full," he whispered. The cage unlocked with a hiss. Shari didn't move. She thought maybe it was a trick. Maybe they would shock her again or laugh more. But the man walked over slowly and knelt beside her. "Can you walk?" he asked. Shari stared at him. "Why?" she whispered. The man didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached out and gently touched her collar. He pressed something, and it clicked open. The collar fell to the ground with a soft thud. "Because no one deserves to live in chains," he said. She looked at the collar, then at his face. This had to be a dream. No one ever freed her. "Who are you?" she asked again, her voice shaking. The man stood up and offered his hand. "My name is Ely," he said, "and you don't belong here." Shari didn't take his hand, but she stood up. The crowd still watched, silent now. They had no words. They had seen many slaves sold here, many caged things broken, but never a human freeing one. Eli turned to leave. Shari followed, not because she trusted him, not because she believed him, but because, for the first time in her life, someone had looked at her and didn't call her an animal. They walked together through the market, her bare feet on hot stone. People stared. Some whispered. Some laughed. But Ely didn't stop, and Shari didn't look back. A beast in the guest room. Shari stood outside the small house, afraid to step in. She had been inside many buildings before, dark cages, cold ships, places that smelled like oil and blood. But this place felt different. Warm light came from inside the doorway. She could hear quiet humming. The human named Eli stood just ahead of her, holding the door open. "Go on," he said softly. "You're safe here." Shari didn't move. Safe? What did that even mean? She had been a slave since she was a child. Safe was not a word she knew. "Is this a trick?" she asked. Eli didn't laugh. He didn't look angry. He just stepped back and opened the door wider. "If you want to leave," he said, "I won't stop you." Shari narrowed her eyes. She looked at the dark street behind her, then back at the human. Cold wind blew through the alien city, and far away, she could hear the sound of sirens. Someone might be looking for her. She stepped forward, slowly, like a wild animal unsure of a trap. The moment her foot crossed the doorway, something inside her shifted. She wasn't sure what it was. Maybe it was the smell, soft herbs and warm food. Maybe it was the quietness. Maybe it was the fact that no one shouted at her. "You can sit anywhere," Eli said, pointing to a simple couch. Shari walked in with small steps, her eyes on every corner. Her muscles stayed tight, ready to run. She didn't sit. Instead, she touched the edge of a wooden chair like it might vanish. "You live here?" she asked. Eli nodded. "It's not much, but it's home." Shari didn't know what home meant. She only knew cells and chains and silent nights filled with fear. "Why did you buy me?" she asked, her voice sharp. "What do you want from me?" Eli paused at the table. He poured water into a glass and placed it in front of her. "Nothing." Shari's eyes narrowed. "No one wants nothing." He sat across from her. "You're right. I want something. I want you to rest, to heal, to decide who you are, without chains around your neck." Her breath caught for a second. No one had ever asked her what she wanted. The next hour passed in silence. Eli made food, soft bread, warm stew, a kind of root tea. Shari didn't eat at first. She watched him carefully, waiting for a sign that he was like the others. When he didn't offer a command, or raise his voice, or demand anything, she finally took a bite. It was the first warm food she had tasted in years. Her hands shook as she held the bowl. Eli didn't say anything. He just sat across from her, drinking tea and watching the fire in the small heater. Shari finished her food slowly, as if every bite might be her last. Then she looked up. "Are you going to sleep near me?" she asked. Her tone was defensive, ready for violence. Eli shook his head. "You get the bed. I'll sleep on the floor." Shari stared at him. "The bed. For me." He smiled a little. "It's just a bed. To people like you, maybe," she said quietly. Later that night, Shari stood in the doorway of the guest room. A bed with soft blankets, a window with real glass, and silence. Real silence. No screaming, no shocks, no guards, no chains. She didn't know what to do with it. Shari touched the edge of the bed. It was warm. Too soft. She curled up in a corner of it, not in the middle, afraid it might disappear. She didn't remove her boots. She didn't loosen her clothes. She just stared at the ceiling. Her ears twitched when she heard Eli's soft snore from the other room. She whispered to herself, "What kind of human are you?" Dreams came fast. Not the good kind. She saw flames, cages, her sister's face, the auction block, pain, laughter, darkness. She sat up fast, sweating and breathing hard. A voice called out gently, "You okay?" "Eli." Shari looked toward the door. He wasn't inside the room. He had stayed in the other one. Far, safe. She didn't answer. But she didn't lie back down either. In the morning, Eli was already making something in the kitchen. She could smell sweet bread and hear the bubbling of something warm. Shari walked out slowly. Her eyes were tired. She didn't say anything. He placed a plate in front of her. "You had a rough night." She said nothing. "Do you want to talk about it?" he asked. She looked at him. "No." Eli nodded. Okay. And then he changed the subject. Not to control her, not to trick her, but to let her choose. Have you ever seen a real ocean? He asked. Shari blinked. We're not far from one. Maybe, when you're ready, I could show you. She stared at him, suspicious. You're not like the others, she said. I hope not, Eli replied. Shari lowered her eyes. Her hands gripped the cup in front of her. Do you really think I'm not a beast? You're not, he said simply. You're a person who was treated like an animal. There's a difference. Shari didn't speak for a long time. Then, in a voice so soft it was almost a whisper, she said, I don't even know who I am anymore. Eli looked at her and smiled gently. Then let's find out together. Scars under the skin. The rain had started again. It tapped softly on the roof of the small house like a lullaby. Outside, the city looked dark and quiet, the neon lights flickering through the mist. Eli sat near the window, fixing an old piece of equipment. He didn't say much. He hadn't all day. Shari sat across from him, holding a cup of warm tea between her hands. Her eyes were on him, but not in fear. In curiosity. She was starting to see something different in him. Not just kindness. Not just silence. Something broken. Something like her. Eli, she said softly. He looked up. What happened to your face? He touched the scar on his cheek without thinking. The line was old, maybe years, but still visible. Sharp, deep, angry. Someone tried to kill me, he said. Shari tilted her head. Did you deserve it? He chuckled. Maybe. She didn't laugh. Her voice was flat, serious. Was it here, on this planet? He shook his head. No. Far away. Another colony. I was young, stupid, believed in the wrong people. You were a slave too, she asked. Eli's hand stopped moving. He put down the tool slowly. Then he lifted the sleeve of his shirt. Shari's eyes widened. His arm. It was covered in scars. Deep ones. Some looked like burns. Some were sharp like knife cuts. Others looked like marks left by chains. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Shari finally broke the silence. They marked you like they marked me. Eli didn't look at her. Not exactly. They marked me because I tried to help others. I got caught. Punished. So you're a fighter. I was, he said. But now, I fix things. Machines. People. Maybe. Shari looked down at her own arms. There were old scars under her fur, hidden, but she knew every one of them. She remembered how each one happened. Remembered the pain, the faces, the screams. Why didn't you give up? She asked. Eli looked at her for a long time. Because if I gave up, he said, they win. Shari stared at him. Those words, so simple, yet they hit something deep inside her, because she had almost given up many times. In cages, in chains, in silence. You think I'm like you, she whispered. I think you're stronger, Eli replied. Shari didn't speak after that, but her eyes stayed on him longer than ever before. That night, she didn't sleep in the corner of the bed. She slept in the middle, like she belonged there. The next morning, Eli gave her something unexpected. A small silver ring, not a fancy one, just metal and old. He handed it to her without a word. Shari looked at it with confusion. What is this? A key, he said. A key to what? Freedom. Shari stared at him. You're not my property. I never saw you that way. This house, the door. If you want to leave, you can. Anytime. You're free. Her hands tightened around the ring. Her throat felt dry. You're lying. I'm not. You could sell me again. Make money. I won't. You could keep me and call it kindness. I don't want to keep you, he said gently. I want you to choose to stay. Shari looked at the ring again. Her hands shook. No one's ever given me a choice before. Eli stood up. Then it's time someone did. Later that day, they sat outside under a small metal roof as the rain kept falling. Shari was watching the sky. "You think there's anyone else like me out there?" she asked. "Beastkin?" Eli asked. "No," she said, "not just the body. The broken parts, the ones who got left behind, and still dream anyway." Eli looked at her, then nodded slowly. "Yes, and some of them are still waiting for someone like you." Shari laughed quietly. It was a strange sound, like she wasn't used to laughing. "You make it sound like I'm special." "You are," he said. "I'm just a slave who learned to fight." "You're a survivor," Eli said. "And that's rare." As the sun began to set, something changed. Shari stepped closer to Eli. She raised her hand and touched his arm, lightly. "Thank you," she said. Eli nodded. But then she added something else. "If I ever find the ones who did this to you, I'll make them pay." His eyes widened a little. "Shari, I mean it." He smiled, not because of the threat, but because she had said if I ever find them, not if you find them. Not if they come back. If I find them. Like they were hers to deal with. Like he mattered to her. That night, as she sat alone in the room, Shari turned the silver ring in her hands. She looked at the door. She was free to leave. But for the first time, she didn't want to. Freedom wasn't a door. It was a person. And his name was Eli. Run like an animal. The knock came just after midnight. 3 soft taps. Then silence. Shari's eyes snapped open. She wasn't dreaming this time. She had heard it too clearly. She sat up in the bed, every part of her body tense. Outside, the wind blew hard, but the knock had been real. 3 taps. Then again. Tap, tap, tap. She stood quietly and moved to the door. Eli was already awake. He stood in the living room, wearing a shirt and holding a small scanner in his hand. The lights were off. He held a finger to his lips. "Don't speak." Shari nodded once. Eli checked the scanner and whispered, 2 life signs. Outside. Standing still. "Who?" Shari asked. "Don't know. But they're armed." She felt her heart pound. "They're here for me." Eli didn't argue. He moved fast now. Grabbed a small bag, stuffed it with food, and 2 metal capsules. "We have to leave," he said. Shari hesitated. "I can fight." "Not now," Eli said. "They'll have backup. We fight now. We die." Shari growled low in her throat. The old rage inside her stirred. Her hands curled into fists. But she followed him. They slipped out the back door, moving through the shadows. The rain had returned, heavy and loud, covering the sound of their steps. Shari moved like wind, silent, fast. Her training from years in the cages had taught her how to run, how to vanish. She helped Eli climb a wall, then pulled him over with surprising strength. "How did they find us?" she asked. "Someone must have seen us in the market," Eli said. "You weren't exactly invisible. I had chains on me." "I know." They ducked into an alley. Shari's ears twitched. "They're tracking us." "How do you know?" "I feel them." Eli didn't question her instinct. They moved again. 30 minutes passed. Then the city lights started to change, flashing red in some areas. Security drones buzzed overhead. Shari's blood went cold. "Sector lockdown," Eli muttered. "They're closing the district." "We have to go underground," Shari said. "Sewer lines. Service tunnels." Eli hesitated. Shari grabbed his hand. "I know the way. Trust me." He nodded. They moved through an old gate behind an abandoned shop. Shari found the latch and pulled hard. The metal door screeched open. They dropped into darkness. The tunnel smelled like rot and rust. Water dripped from overhead pipes. Shari moved ahead, fast and sure, like she had lived here before. Maybe she had. Maybe parts of her still did. "You were a slave here," Eli asked as they ran. Years ago, Shari said, I escaped once. Used these tunnels. They lead far, outside the city walls. Why come back? They caught me. The silence that followed was heavier than the air. After an hour, they reached a dry section where they could rest. Eli sat against a wall, breathing hard. Shari stood guard. You okay? She asked. He nodded, just tired. She looked at him closely. His hands were bleeding. Small cuts from the walls and fences. She knelt beside him and gently took his hand. Let me, she whispered. She used a strip of her clothing to wrap the worst cut. She worked with soft hands, careful and slow. You've done this before, Eli said. We had to treat each other, she replied. No one else would. Eli looked at her. Her face was fierce, but soft around the eyes. Shari, he said slowly, you don't have to protect me. She looked at him, surprised. You protected me. I had a choice, he said. You didn't. Shari was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, this time, I choose to protect you. They moved again before dawn. The tunnels opened into old ruins beyond the city, a forgotten factory zone with broken walls, rusted towers, and deep shadows. We can hide here for a while, Shari said. Eli nodded. We'll rest, then plan. As they stepped inside, Shari froze. Something didn't feel right. She sniffed the air. Eli, she said slowly, we're not alone. He raised his scanner. Before he could speak, a red beam flashed from the corner. Shari jumped, pushing him down. The beam hit the wall and exploded. Ambush, she shouted. 5 shapes moved from the shadows, masked soldiers with electric rifles. They surrounded them. Hand her over, one of them shouted. By order of the planetary governor. Shari stepped forward. You'll have to take me. They fired. Shari moved like lightning. She leaped, rolled, and tackled one soldier to the ground. Claws out, eyes glowing, teeth bared. She roared, a sound not human, not animal. Something in between. Eli threw a smoke capsule. The place filled with white mist. Shots fired blindly. When the smoke cleared, Shari was on top of the last soldier, breathing hard. Her hands were covered in blood. Her shoulder was burned, but she stood tall. Eli stared at her. She looked back at him. Now you see what I am, she said. Eli walked toward her, steady and calm. He placed a hand on her cheek. Yes, he said. And I'm still here. Shari blinked. He wasn't afraid. Not of her claws, not of her roar, not of her blood. Why? She asked. Because you ran to protect me, not to destroy. She looked down. I used to run for my life, she whispered. Now I run to save someone else. Eli smiled. Then maybe, he said, you're not the animal they said you were. Shari looked at the dead soldiers, then at the rising sun in the sky. They had survived the night. But the war wasn't over. The fire inside. Shari's hands wouldn't stop shaking. She sat by the ruined wall of the factory, staring at her fingers like they were strangers. The blood on her claws had dried, but something else was still burning inside her. Not fear, not pain, something deeper. She pressed her hands against her chest, trying to control her breathing. Her heart beat fast, too fast, like something wild had woken up and refused to sleep again. Eli sat nearby, his eyes on her. He had seen the fight, seen her roar, seen her tear through armored soldiers like a storm. And he hadn't run. Shari had expected him to look at her with fear now. Instead, he just looked, worried. Are you hurt? He asked gently. Shari shook her head. Not on the outside. Eli stood and walked over. He knelt beside her. What's happening? Shari closed her eyes. My body, she whispered. It's changing. Because of the fight. No. She looked at him. Something in her eyes was different now, brighter, glowing faintly orange. It's because of you. Eli's brows pulled together. Me. Shari nodded. My kind, we have something inside us. It stays quiet when we're alone, when we're afraid, when we're in chains. And now it's waking up. She leaned back against the wall, eyes fixed on the cracked ceiling. We were bred for war, Eli, designed to obey. But deep inside, we still carry the old fire. The part that bonds. The part that chooses. Chooses what? Shari looked at him. Her voice was soft, unsure. A mate. Eli didn't speak for a while. The wind howled outside the broken windows. The sky was turning dark again, clouds gathering like a warning. He watched Shari closely. Her skin seemed warmer, her breathing faster, her eyes glowing more every minute. Is this dangerous? He asked. Shari laughed bitterly. For you? Maybe. She stood up and walked away from him, pacing. I don't know what it means anymore. We weren't allowed to bond. If one of us tried, they were taken, broken, or killed. So you never. She stopped walking and faced him. But now, my body thinks we're connected. Because you saved me. Because you didn't hurt me. Because you stayed. Eli stepped closer. And what do you think? Shari looked down. I don't know. I don't trust it. I don't trust me. He placed a hand on her shoulder. Then trust me. Shari looked at him, unsure. Her skin was hot under his fingers. I'm not asking you for anything, Eli said. You don't owe me a choice, or a bond, or whatever this is. I just want you to stay you. Her eyes softened, but the fire inside her didn't. That night, Shari's body burned. She curled up in the corner of the room, away from the weak fire Eli had built. Her skin was sweating, but she shivered. Her muscles twitched like they didn't belong to her. And in her mind, everything blurred. Memories. Pain. Touch. Eli's face. The feeling of his hand on her skin. His voice. The safety. The kindness. She tried to fight it, but her instincts were stronger than her thoughts. Her claws scraped the ground. Her breathing grew faster. Stop, she whispered to herself. Stop it. He's not yours. Don't hurt him. The door creaked. Eli stood there, watching her from a distance. He didn't come closer. Shari, he said softly. She couldn't answer. Her eyes glowed now, bright like fire. Her breathing was wild. I'm losing it, she said through gritted teeth. Get out. I can't stop it. Eli didn't move. You won't hurt me. You don't know that, she shouted. Tears burned in her eyes. She slammed her hand into the wall, cracking the stone. This isn't love, she hissed. It's biology. It's control. It's fire that burns everything. Eli stepped closer. Then let it burn me. Shari looked up, shocked. What? If that's what you need, Eli said. If pain is the only way to prove I'm not afraid of you, then do it. He opened his arms. Shari shook her head. No, don't. Shari. His voice was calm, strong, real. She stared at him, then dropped to her knees. I don't want to be a weapon anymore, she whispered. He knelt with her, pulling her into a soft embrace. Not tight, not possessive, just human. Shari's body trembled, not from fear, but from release. She buried her face into his shoulder, letting the fire cool slowly. You didn't run, she whispered. I never will. The next morning, the sky cleared. Shari stood outside, watching the clouds break. Her eyes no longer glowed. Her breathing was normal. Her skin felt like hers again. Eli handed her a new jacket, stitched from old fabric. She took it. I didn't break you, she said. You saved me, he replied. I wanted to run again. You stayed. Shari looked at her hands, then at him. Do you still see me as a person? Eli smiled. Now more than ever. Later that day, they packed their things and moved deeper into the wildlands, beyond where the Empire's reach could follow. But before they left, Shari buried something near the wall. Her old collar, the symbol of the beast she used to be. Bound by more than chains, the forest was quiet. Only the wind spoke, moving through the tall red trees, shaking the silver leaves. Birds with glowing wings flew above. The air here felt different, cleaner, untouched by machines or cities. Shari walked beside Eli. No chains around her neck, no collar, but something was still there. Not on her body, not around her wrists. It was inside her. A pull, a warmth, a connection that wasn't physical, but real. She glanced at Eli. He didn't speak much, just kept walking with his eyes on the old map in his hand. But she could feel him, even without looking. "Eli," she said softly, "I feel strange again." He looked at her. "Pain." She shook her head. "No, not pain. Like, you're inside my mind." Eli stopped walking. His face changed. "What did you say?" "I feel you," Shari whispered, "even when you're not touching me." He walked closer. "What else do you feel?" She hesitated. "Your heartbeat. When you're worried. When you're afraid." Eli looked shocked. Then he sat down on a fallen tree and rubbed his forehead. "No way," he muttered. Shari sat beside him. "Eli," she said, "tell me the truth. This isn't just about me, is it?" He didn't answer right away. Then he sighed. "No." Shari turned toward him. "What are you hiding?" Eli looked up at the sky. His voice was low. 10 years ago, I was captured by a science guild. A rogue one. Not official. They were experimenting on something. Old. Something they didn't understand. Shari listened in silence. They found ancient tech, part biological, part energy-based. Said it came from the First War. They called it the tether. Shari blinked. Tether. Yeah, Eli nodded. A link between minds, between species, a way to share pain, or strength, or even memories. Shari's breath caught. You were part of it. They forced me into it, tested the bond with different creatures, but none survived. He looked at her now. Until you. Shari stood up, her heart racing. You're saying, this bond isn't just in me? No, Eli said. It's in both of us. Shari stepped back. You knew all this time? I only suspected, he said. But when you said you could feel my heartbeat, I knew it was real. She turned away, fists clenched. You should have told me. I was scared, Eli said. I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want to believe that maybe we were never just two people helping each other. Shari's voice was quiet now. So this isn't love. Eli stood slowly. It can be. Shari turned to face him. What if it's just a trick? What if it's the tether making me care? Making me feel safe? Eli didn't answer. Because he didn't know. Shari closed her eyes. She breathed in deep. And then, something shifted. Suddenly, sharp images hit her mind. A young boy, in chains, screaming. A lab full of machines. A man with cold eyes. Shari gasped and fell to her knees. Eli rushed to her. What happened? She looked up, shaking. I saw you. Your past. Eli's eyes widened. It's starting, he said. The deeper bond. I didn't ask for this, Shari whispered. Neither did I. But he still held her hand. And this time, Shari didn't pull away. Later that night, they sat beside a fire in a hidden cave deep in the forest. Rain poured outside. Thunder echoed like a slow heartbeat. Shari sat wrapped in a dry blanket, her eyes on the fire. Do you think this tether will keep growing? She asked. Eli nodded. It connects more than thoughts. It connects truths. Even the ones we hide. Especially those. Shari touched her own chest. Will you see my past too? If you let me, Eli said. Shari looked into his eyes, then slowly reached out and placed her palm on his. Then see it, she whispered. See what they did to me. What he saw made him sick. Her as a child, locked in a steel room, forced to fight other children, punished when she cried, trained like a weapon. Shock collars, metal needles, a voice screaming, "You are not a person. You are property." Eli's hands trembled. He blinked, and it was over. Shari was breathing hard. "Do you hate me now?" she asked. Eli shook his head. "I want to break every lab that did that to you." Shari smiled bitterly. "That's why you're dangerous to them," she said. "Not because you're a soldier, because you still feel." In the morning, they left the cave and moved toward the old mountains. They had heard rumors of other escaped beastkin hiding in the cliffs. Shari wanted to find them. Not for herself, for Eli. "They need to see you," she said. "Why?" "Because you're proof that not all humans are monsters." Eli looked at her. "And you're proof that not all beasts need chains." Shari smiled. A real smile. Not broken, not bitter. Just free. Kneeling to the beast, the mountains rose like silent giants. Cold wind blew through the narrow paths. The sky above was wide, filled with gray clouds. The earth below was cracked but alive, green vines growing between stone. Birds circled high, watching everything. Shari and Eli stood at the edge of the old cliff. They had walked for days to reach this place. "You sure they're here?" Eli asked. Shari nodded. "I can feel them." Her voice was calm, steady. But inside, her heart beat like a drum. These were her people, the ones who escaped. The broken, the angry, the hunted. What would they say when they saw her walking beside a human? What would they do? They moved through the caves in silence. It didn't take long. The watchers found them. Shari stopped when she saw the eyes, glowing from the shadows. Claws, armor, scars. Beastkin whom no longer trusted anyone. "State your name," one growled. Shari stepped forward. "Shari of cell number 37, she said. A few of them gasped. "You were taken," one whispered. "I escaped." Their eyes moved to Eli. "Who is he?" Shari placed her hand on Eli's chest. "Mine." Growls echoed through the cave. "He's human. They caged us. They branded us." "Not him," Shari said. "They're all the same," someone shouted. Eli raised both hands. "I didn't come to fight." "Good," said a voice from deeper in the cave. "Because you'd lose." An old beastkin stepped out, bigger than the rest, armored, her face marked with burns. "I lead here," she said. Shari bowed her head slightly. "I don't want to lead. I only want to speak." The leader stared at Eli. "Do you think we'll kneel to a man like him?" Shari turned. "No." She stepped in front of Eli. "Because he's the one who kneels." And then, Eli did something no one expected. He dropped to one knee. Not because he was forced, not because he was afraid, but because he chose to. In front of all of them, warriors, rebels, survivors, he lowered his head and spoke. "I kneel not to a beast, not to a soldier, not to a slave," he said. "I kneel to Shari, to the one who saved me, to the one who still believes in peace." The cave fell silent. Shari looked down at him, her throat tight. "Why do you do this?" she whispered. He raised his eyes. "Because I love you." Shari's eyes filled with tears. She wasn't supposed to cry in front of others, but she did, and no one laughed. Not this time. Just when peace seemed possible, the sound of ships broke the sky. Blades of wind hit the mountain. Shari turned fast. "Dropships," she said. "Empire colors." "They followed you," the leader growled. "They tracked us both," Eli said. Shari stepped forward. "We fight together." You expect us to die for a human. No, she said. I expect you to live because of one. The battle began at sunset. Stormtroopers dropped in by the dozens. Shari led the first charge, her eyes glowing, her body swift. Claws struck metal. Roars filled the cliffs. Eli stayed at her side, blaster in hand, moving with purpose. No hesitation. No fear. Shari protected him like a shield. He protected her like a wall. They moved like one. The bond between them, real, strong, unbreakable, guided their every step. Others followed, not just because of Shari, but because of them, together. For the first time, beastkin and human fought side by side. When the battle ended, smoke rose from the rocks. Bodies lay still. Shari's arm was cut. Eli's coat was burned. But they were alive. The Empire had been pushed back, for now. And something had changed. In the eyes of the survivors. In the way they looked at Eli. In the way they looked at Shari. That night, the stars came out. Quiet returned. Shari stood on the cliff, staring at the moon. Eli walked up beside her. You did it, he said. No, she whispered. We did it. She turned to face him. They'll come again, she said. Stronger. Then we fight again. What if we lose? Eli smiled. We already won. Shari tilted her head. How? Because you're not alone anymore. She stepped closer. Her hand touched his. Will you still kneel? She asked softly. Every day, Eli whispered. If it means standing beside you. Shari's lips curved into a smile. Not a beast's smile. Not a warrior's grin. But a woman's smile. Full of light. Somewhere deep inside her, the fire still burned. But it didn't hurt anymore. Because it had a name now. Love. And it was bound not by chains, but by choice.